wedding or something of the management people, and they were having this deal, and at Ron Evans's house, and one of the picketers took a pot shot, and it was with license. I'm not licensed, with a magnifying sight and so forth, and killed him. It just shows you they have absolutely no concern and have no really, I just said, understanding of what goes on.
No, they get so carried away with a different kind of like mindset that
the strike is an occupation or economic strike. It's a war between.
Okay, like economic warfare. It's you know, like us against them. It has to do with the management and you know the unions have had so many good things to do with over the years. I mean, and that's the thing that's really hard to reconcile. I mean, there were such good things going on.
Back in the 1930s, the action of management guaranteed that there was going to be unions. Because they were treating them like trash. And that's what started. There was a lot of hard fighting and so forth at that time.
And even before that, when you look through the years, like when the immigrants would come over in the early 1900s and the types of, the way people were taken advantage of. You know, you can't do that. People are people. And
back before the unions really started, I hired you in to do a job, and you better be there. And I need you for 5 more hours. You stay here.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
It was almost like slavery if you wanted your job.
See, so that's the way it went. I remember I was in 1950. I was in the mill room, and we had these big steam dryers, and there was one of the new chem engineers came into Pittsburgh, and he was over, and there was an absence or something. They had to do something, and they came over and asked me who should we call in, and they had the rules. I said, okay, do it this way, and this young kid says to me, he said, boy, he said, let me have them and let me just have them without a union for about 2 or 3 days, and I'd straighten that out. And I said, yeah, that's the reason they are the union.
Because of people that would really abuse their situation.
That's
and
right, you know, there's such thing as they're human beings.
Yeah, and they have dignity, and this is not going well. I shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff late at night here. I want to just get a different kind of a view here of you, Dad, and it's kind of tippy because I'm on a Cheez-Its box, but it's kind of worth to just have a little bit of a different view here. You know, I mean, that's true. You know, there are some movies that I think have some value, but then I look at all the stuff that they throw in there. I can't even remember. It was something about these Irish immigrants, and they come to New York, and it was very violent, and it was very vulgar, but it had to do with, you know, like the politics of the city and how people have to bound together. And then I look at
that took place.
Or like those, what was that, the shirt factory in New York where all these women were in this building, and it was so, and then it burnt down and almost everybody in there burned alive because they had so many people in there in such bad conditions. And shirt dress company or something, you know, I mean, they needed to have some improvements. And if people didn't pay attention to the people aspect of it, and that's one thing, like with, they say, oh, capitalism is so harsh and it's so anti this and that, and it is if the only thing that's important is the profit.
That's right.
You have to balance that out with the capital or the communistic or the socialistic view of where it's just the people, 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 and there's nothing to do with the other part of it.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right now we're in a changing, possible life-changing part in our economy and history. You know, with the way it's so socialistic right now,
That's right.
if things don't change and keep going in that direction, it's going to be a not good thing. But you also have to balance things once again and not have the big banks make all the money and then all the people lose their homes.
If you have capitalism, which is morally managed,
right,
is very good. You had capitalism that's where the people in charge abuse that.
Mm-hmm.
It gets very bad. You know.
Yeah. I have no idea. This is probably past your bedtime.
9 o'clock? No.
I don't know.
My bedtime, I'll be watching something and I'll start getting ready for bed at 10 o'clock, and the first thing I know, it's quarter after 12.
Dave's mom does the same thing, but she refuses to accept the fact that she fell asleep. She didn't sleep during that. You know, she doesn't want to give in to the fact that she fell asleep.
Sometimes I'd fall asleep and wake up and have confused about where am I, what done.
Elaine said one time, have you ever had that happen? She says it's the worst thing where you can't remember what day it is, and then you start to wonder for sure, like, you know, how sane am I? And then she said, oh, and then you remember it. It can't be, maybe it's Sunday, you know, but I didn't go to church yet. So, you know, and then she started talking. It was really funny.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's confusing.
I had one situation like that where I don't know how, but I fell asleep upstairs in my room in a chair, and I woke up and it was sort of like it is about 8 o'clock at night. You know, it's not night yet, but it's not, you know.
Yeah.
And the wind was blowing. And I tried to figure, and I didn't have a clock. I didn't think about the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really confused. I didn't know whether it was the night, Thursday night, or whether this was Friday morning. You know, and it took me about. I even called Ruthie's number, and it didn't get any satisfaction talking to Robert.
You wanted him to give you a clue?
Yeah. So what time it was. But anyway, but that.
See now, if you had a cell phone, that's what we do all the time. If I'm not sure, I just pull it out and I click on something and I know that it's 9:04 p.m. and it doesn't have the date on mine. Oh yeah, it does. October 26th on the bottom. So if you have a cell phone, then you're okay.
A cell phone like that.
Right.
I've got a cell phone, but it wouldn't have that on it. I'm going to start using Betty's cell phone.
Well, you know what? It's funny. Today I was looking, I guess I was in the airport, and I kind of was like, I was actually in the bathroom, and I didn't know what, I thought, okay, I'm going to sit here for a minute, so I'm just going to look, and I was going through, and then I saw Mom's cell phone, and I thought, I wonder if she still has that, because,
I have it there.
Well, we should get you, definitely, Dad, you should start using that.
Using it, okay.
You know, we have to get you used to using it, though. What was I going to say about the cell phone and knowing what day it is? I don't remember. I do that a lot. So, So the World Series, is it actually the World Series that starts? I mean, I've totally lost track.
The World Series starts tomorrow.
Okay.
You know. And the first game should go to the Rangers, because Cliff Lee is pitching, and the last game he pitched in his playoffs, he had 13 strikeouts.
Oh.
And
so hopefully.
One hit. And where did he start? Indians. The Indians produces all the stars.
And they trade them all away.
Yeah.
I mean, like Sabathia.
Okay, that was one of them. They traded away Victor Martinez.
Okay.
The Red Sox. He's a catcher and a darn good hitter. So who stars in their playoffs? Victor.
I remember going to Chicago and meeting up. Anna was young at the time, meeting with Nicole, and we met, and then we went to like Chicago and we shopped and we had a really fun weekend. And I remember the Cleveland Indians were in like a playoff game or something like that.
Right, could have been.
And Tomey or something like that.
Jim Tomey?
Yep, he was on it at the time. And there were all kinds of good players, and then the next year, none of them were
Jim
there.
Tomey is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You know, he's from Peoria, Illinois. His pastime out of baseball is hunting and fishing.
He should come up by us.
And he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
He was the last team he played for now was the Twins. Minnesota Twins.
Okay, that's...
And he was making a point. He's only got 570 home runs in his record now.
Now with Sabathia, when he was here, didn't he play in Akron for a little bit or something like that?
Every once in a while, some of those, this is double A here, some of those guys would go out to stores or so forth just to sit around and talk to people.
Uh-huh.
You know, C.C. Sebastian's down here at Acme.
At our Acme.
I talked to him for a while.
Well, that's neat. And then I was so excited because then he was in the Milwaukee for a while or whatever.
That's right.
And I thought, oh, that would be so cool, you know. And was he? No, I'm thinking of something
He's from
else.
California.
Okay.
He was born and raised in California. And he's matured very well. You know, sometimes they get into that place, they sort of get off of the edge, but
He's doing...
He's got it pretty well organized.
Uh-huh. That's really...
Yeah.
That's good to see, and I remember being really excited when he came and played for the Brewers because that summer, I think, we were at Seven Springs and we were watching baseball with you or something just for a little while. We came to you and Mom's place, and Joe said, oh, he would really, you know, he is so good, and he'd really, I don't know if Joe said that something like he would be a good guy to play with the Brewers. Maybe we were doing well that year, and that's why they drafted him or took him in some kind of a trade or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I just remember Joe talking about him, and then we got him, and that was so cool. And we hear about it even now because we had, you know, you get a good team off and on, and you think, well, what are the owners willing to do, you know, to make a good team? Same with like the Green Bay Packers. You know, right now we've got a decent team. I don't know if it's like a Super Bowl team, but at least
they got a
it's
good team. Yeah, that's right.
Well, Rodgers is a pretty good gamble. I'm glad that they stuck with him instead of Brett, even though Brett was just, as an employer, if he would wait to tell me until after the draft whether he was coming back next year, I couldn't have stood that. You know, because otherwise you'd be drafting a new quarterback.
That's right.
And when I started thinking, that's like holding someone hostage.
Almost.
Yeah, but...
The only way you break that is take the challenge on them.
Yeah, which they did, and there was a lot of, boy oh boy, Green Bay was up in arms. You know, there were lots of funny things, you know, with what the people's opinions about things are pretty...
And like some of the commentators that are on now.
Mm-hmm.
The other day there was Rick Sutcliffe. You know Rick Sutcliffe?
Sounds familiar.
Rick Sutcliffe, he pitched for Cleveland. I think the last season he was pitching for Cleveland, he picked off 11 people from first base.
Oh.
left-handed, and a good player. And they traded him to Chicago Cubs, I think it was.
Mhm.
And in the first game up there, he picked 2 guys off. But anyway, he's on comment, you know.
Mhm.
And then there's he was a relief pitcher for Cleveland, and he pitched for Cleveland for quite a while, and then they sold him off like they do all their good players.
Yeah.
And he started all the way through until the end of his career. And he now is one of these commentators.
Uh-huh.
Perhaps I think of his name.
It'll come later.
But
Well,
there's much of that.
yeah, I don't know. I always said to Dave, you know, it seems like all the good players came from Cleveland. So there'd be somebody out there, a pitcher or a catcher, and I'd say, I think he used to play for Cleveland. And Dave used to start laughing and say, I think you think everybody came from Cleveland.
Well,
and I said, well, I think they trade everybody.
Take a look at managers. Lou Piniella,
That's a familiar name to me.
he played in Cleveland. I think, well, there's a lot of them that they had in Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, and the poor Browns, I just said, you know, I'm used to this losing stuff, you know, up in our area. Our little teeny weeny Catholic school, and when we co-op with the other school that we're with, Lena, we're small, and you can't expect to win all the time.
That's right.
And I just think, well, you know what? Every year we had our hopes up, and we'd be going and talking, and especially Stephen. He always loved to have all of his
Yeah.
ideas about what was going to happen. But I just enjoy, and I still do. I'll I'll put the radio on, and I'll work on something or listen to the radio, because I always remember the radio being on in the kitchen, and you'd be working on things while you were listening, you know.
Right.
And that's, although sometimes now that we have this big screen TV, we do turn it on and we get stuck there.
You can't do the same thing.
No, you have to have something else that you can do
Yeah.
while you're watching TV.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
set of things you can do. So, I'd imagine that Dave's going to call me well, it's only 8:15 back in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Well, this series coming up, that should be a darn good series. San Francisco's got a good team,
and I don't know anything about either of the teams.
and then some of them came from Cleveland. The Rangers, they've got a lot of good raw material that's developed there. They have some of the guys, like they got a guy named Carl Crawford.
Mm-hmm.
He's blacker than black, terrific fielder and hitter. And so they like him because I had a chemistry teacher at Sheridan High School whose name was Carl Crawford, and he was a regular guy too. Yeah,
A lot of things in common.
yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be really hard to be a professional sports player, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Very, very hard.
yeah. Well, some of them can't stand it. That's the reason they finally, it's their demise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there has to be a certain amount of maturity. And what I see sometimes in our schools is that they give these guys so many breaks because they're good in sports that they don't learn how to have any accountability and
That's
any
right.
responsibility. And that doesn't do well in the whole world.
That's
I mean, whether it's financial